This is the podcast of INCACT, the European Network on Cultural Management and Policy. In this series, we interview extraordinary professionals from the cultural management and policy community. Join us to hear their stories, the secrets of their success, and their advice for creating innovation by inspiring new policies and practices in the cultural, education, and research sector.
I'm Janelia Cogliandro Payens, INCAT Secretary General, and this podcast is a part of a special series in which we talk with inspiring leaders committed to contribute to the sustainability of arts and cultural sector. This special series of podcasts is registered at the occasion of the INCAT Academy on Sustainable Cultural Management and Policy, organized by INCAT in April 2023 in Santander. These conversations with cultural leaders are meant to inspire the current and future generation in developing a new sustainable practice and policy. Good morning, Edurne, and welcome to this INCAT podcast series devoted to get inspired by people that are active in sustainability and practice this sustainability on their own daily basis. Edurne, you are director of the Municipality Enterprise for Tourism in Santander. Could you please present yourself and explain your professional background?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Gianna, and your team from the INCAT network. I'm very pleased to be part of this podcast initiative. As you said, I'm the general manager of the public tourism company in the city of Santander in the north of Spain. We are a medium-sized city related to Spain, and we are a tourist destination. I've spent most of my professional life working for the tourism industry, first at a national level, within the Secretary of State for Tourism of Spain, dealing with policy making, strategic planning, marketing and promotion. And then I moved to the local level to contribute to implement those tourism policies and managing some tourism resources, such as congresses venues like the Magdalena Palace of Santander, or the local exhibition center, or the convention bureau.
Fantastic. You have a wonderful job. Especially, we visited at the occasion of the INCAT Academy, organized recently in April in Santander, this wonderful Magdalena Palace. So I'm very jealous to imagine you every day in this amazing building. You are an expert of tourism. You just presented your career and expertise in this field. You are the best place to tell us how do you see the future of tourism, and in particular the future of the tourism in Santander?
Well, I see the future of the city, not the tourism itself, but I see the future of the city intrinsically linked to the future of the tourism of the city. It's very important because for Santander, the tourism industry is one of the main economic tractors, and we are a very famous national destination. We are starting to open to international tourism as well. And I like to say that I imagine our future in three colors. I remember sharing this with you. I see the future of the city and the tourism of the city in green, orange, and blue. Green, of course, for the sustainable component and its avoidable commitments for tourism leaders, of course. The city has been working towards the smart city management system for more than a decade now, and sustainability is one of the core objectives of these management models. But also, it's related, of course, with sustainability, because we try to implement technology to improve both citizens' lives, but also to manage public resources more effectively and efficiently. And of course, this applies to tourism itself. Green as well, because around 40% of our soil is green and surrounded by the coastline. So it's our duty to preserve it, to enjoy it today, but to preserve it for the future. Orange, for the component of the orange economy, and obviously linked to creativity, and particularly with culture, because as we share with you back in the academy, Santander is going to be, or we hope it's going to be, a pole of attraction for culture tourism, because we are working on very interesting projects, state-of-the-art cultural infrastructures that will join the current ones. For example, the foundation of the Banco Santander is working on the Faro project, and is going to bring to Santander a very interesting collection. The Reina Sofia Museum from Madrid is going to have an associated center here in Santander with the archive La Fuente, and it's going to be amazing. There's a very interesting project for the Museum of Prehistoric Art in the city. I mean, Cantabria is one of the main regional areas related to the Altamira caves and the prehistoric art. And there's a huge collection that is going to be shown in this museum. So we have a real big spectrum of cultural evolution assets, and they're going to be in less than a square kilometer in Santander. And finally, blue, because of something I just said before, the coastline of Santander is 3/4 of our limits. So we are all surrounded by the color blue, and our development, the historical development of the citizens and the city itself has been linked to the sea, to the oceanic culture and practices at the sea. So it's inevitably blue as well.
Fantastic. I like very much this idea to use colors to present your guidelines and your ambitious policy. Our participants were absolutely impressed by the beauty of the city. It's one of these unknown gems that you have often in Europe. Many of our citizens travel all over the world and don't know very often the beauty of places that are not yet in the cultural map. What was also extremely astonishing for us is to see this concentration of cultural venues of extremely high quality, and thinking that in very few years, very, very short term, these museums will open, and it's really clear that a new educated public will come to take advantage of this very rich cultural offer. And then it comes the question of sustainability of tourism, and how you are planning to educate these tourists to respect the city, but also promoting this rich cultural offer in a sustainable way. What are your plans?
Of course, we are working on both supply and demand. First of all, as you said, Santander is a gem we don't really know yet. So first of all, we have to, from the public sector, we have to promote quality and excellence, and we have to attract investment and make sure that public resources are going to contribute to develop this sustainable offer, supply. Of course, we have to work as well on marketing so that we give this idea that Santander is not only a coast destination, but also a cultural one. So we are working on that. And of course, we have to stop externalities, negative externalities of tourism spreading so fast. We've already seen that for the past 3 years after the pandemic. And we have to work on stop these negative effects of the tourism. But we are really sure that working on these specific tourism products, such as culture tourism, we are going to face those challenges themselves, because we have to attract different targets in different periods of the year, because seasonality was one of the main challenges that the city was facing. So culture, gastronomy, or different assets that you can enjoy for the whole year, not only sand and beach tourism. So I think that by promoting culture itself, we are going to help and work on this sustainable destination.
Yes, I absolutely understand that it's important of avoid now that the culture offer is absolutely important and outstanding, that people only come for enjoying summer holidays. But this is a city for 12 months of the year. And what is the place of the citizens? Because of course they are your first audience. These fantastic new museums, they should be welcome place for them. But what from a touristic point of view are you doing to make them part of the choice of the city, but also don't feel overwhelmed by mass tourism if you succeed, and I hope so, with your marketing the city of Santander worldwide? Because we know that today cities like Lisbon or Venice or many other, they suffer from the success, and citizens are leaving the city because they start to be not anymore the place to live. So how you address this potential success to make the cities a place for the citizens to live?
Well, fortunately, in Santander, we do not yet have these kinds of problems, because we can still cope for more tourists, but mostly we need to spread tourism flows and distribute them during the year, as I said before, and within the territory itself. First, you said how we do involve citizens within the tourism planning and decision making. We have a very good example of this, because we worked, apart from the traditional strategic planning process for tourism, we have an annual tourism plan. We have a specific one for sustainable tourism. We were lucky enough to leverage 4 million euros coming from Next Generation funds, and they are going to be spent within this sustainable tourism plan that is going to help us face those specific challenges the city had, such as seasonality, as we talked before. And this is directly linked as well to sustainability, because distributing tourism flows within the year is going to help sponge those possible negative effects, but as well distributing wealth, employment, and tourism flows within the territory, because right now they are mainly concentrated within a small part of the city, and this plan seeks distributing them through the whole territory. And I said it was a really good example because the whole plan has been worked with the local community representatives from different neighborhoods where this plan was going to work within these areas. They were part of the decision-making process, and they are a crucial part during the implementation. We have regular meetings with them, and there's a specific budget for them so that they decide which, for example, traditions of their specific neighborhoods they want to promote, which kind of cultural assets they want to preserve or refurbish or to share with the local communities. So it's a good example because of the challenges it seeks, but also because the local communities are working within the experts committee to decide during the whole implementation of the plan.
Fantastic. So these are all very practical examples that can give our audience ideas on how also from their side can be inspired if they face similar context and challenges. Do you also are planning to evaluate, measure the success of your sustainable tourist effort? So you have described a clear plan with green, orange, and blue color. I imagine that this is a plan that at some point will be evaluated and readjusted in case it doesn't work. So how this works?
I think that's a very interesting question because normally, and I've seen it plenty of times in different territories when I was back working at the Secretary of Tourism, normally have these strategic plans, but we do not measure them as much as we should. This is very important asset right now within the sustainable tourism plan. And Santander, as I said at the beginning, has been working on that smart city model. And those models are normally linked to a smart city platforms where we measure different verticals such as culture, water supply, mobility, and tourism flows, for example, to mention a few of them. We also measure the MICE activity, meetings, incentives, congresses, and events. Of course, visitors to tourist attractions, promotional activities, data extracted from different big data tools, such as mobile or banking. Within these indicators, we can follow up if our policies are being successful or not. This was already part of the smart tourism platform, but within this plan, we are working on a specific dashboard for measuring sustainable tourism policies. And it kind of follows the European Tourism Indicators System, the ETIS toolkit for sustainable destination management. And we are going to start now working on the dashboard, working on the different indicators, and providing the system with the different data that is going to show us whether the plan is effectively working, or if there are deviations, and we have to implement different actions. So it's part of the plan itself to measure it.
Fantastic. It's very important indeed element, this measurement and evaluation to always be ready to adjust. I'm also wondering if this ambition in terms of putting Santander in the culture map in Europe and also worldwide, but also pushing to this sustainability approach of tourism can be stopped by the upcoming elections if somebody else will be elected. So myself, but also participants, they were all impressed by the current mayor of the city. She's an extremely visionary policymaker. I wish many cities in Europe could have such an energetic and visionary leaders. She absolutely understood the importance of culture, of the culture and creativity sector that is very active in the city. We had the chance, thanks to the Academy, to visit many beautiful ateliers, galleries, or fashion designers. So it was very clear that there is a political commitment and a vision for the city. Do you think that if somebody else will be elected, this can be stopped, or its sustainability and approach, it's something that is not negotiable for next policymakers in case, for bad luck, the mayor will not be re-elected?
I think that you mostly answered the question itself, because in my opinion, I do not know what the future will be for the city in terms of politics, but I think that, as you said, the sustainability is not negotiable right now. It's an avoidable commitment for or tourism leaders or political leaders within every single territory of the world. And I think that for the very first time in the past 30 decades, I would say, United Nations agenda has really landed, or I mean, it's landing already, because we are really developing sustainable initiatives. Because at the beginning, I thought that sustainability wasn't really landed yet. We were talking about sustainability more than we were acting on sustainability. But I think that it's really working now. And as I said at the beginning, in Santander, different leaders have been already working on smart city models, even though there were different leaders. So I think, as you said, it's unavoidable, it's not negotiable, and no leader in the world could afford to say the opposite.
I totally agree with you. I cannot imagine today any policymakers take over any position without having very high in his agenda the sustainability, responsibility. Something also that was a very clear message and takeaway from our academies, that the time for activism, the time to talk, it's over. Our participants were very clear in telling us that they are not interested anymore in learning theories and learning more about what will happen in few years to the environment. There is a strong need from the audience, and again, very clear from our participants in learning how they can themselves as a citizens and in the same time as a professional in their own organization make a difference. So the time to act is very present and very important. And this was the message. All initiative, and also this podcast, I want to be one of these initiatives where they can get inspired and learn from practice, are more than welcome. We also felt from these conversations that the cultural sector is behind many other sectors in this respect, continue to reinvent the wheel, starting new projects while already many best practice already exist. So to conclude this inspiring and nice conversation, if there is a practice, a good best practice that you have learned through the implementation of your plan, which will be this one that you want to share with our audience?
Okay, it's true. And as we both agree on, the time to talk has ended and it's time to act. For example, I'm not sure if I'm going to mention the best practice, but one of the most recent, and we are very proud of it, and is being implemented within this sustainability tourism plan, because we've been talking about the footprint, for example, the carbon footprint for many years now, I would say. And we said, okay, let's stop talking about the footprint and let's measure it. And we said, we are going to help the private sector, because sometimes they do not have the means, the time, the budget. So we said, okay, let's help them from the public sector. Let's invest on a measurement system. And we invited all hotels in the city to join this initiative to measure their carbon footprint, but not only to measure it, but go further on and to help them offset the CO2 results. And not only to offset them within the, because we gave them two options. We said, okay, let's offset within the United Nations carbon plan so that you can compensate there, but also let's go and do something local. And we started planting nearly 200 trees within an avenue that we are hoping it will be called the Tourism Avenue, Carbon Tourism Commitment Avenue, or something like that, so that people can see the compensation, the offset of the CO2 within the city. And we accompanied it with an instructive and educational panel so that citizens, when they go through this avenue, they know why those trees are there and how many tons of CO2 they are compensating. And it was a very beautiful initiative from the beginning to measure it, to compensate, and to do it locally. And we are very, very proud of it.
Oh, congratulations. Indeed, it's a very beautiful idea, and I'm sure that our public will get inspired and probably implement. At least I really hope that will get adopted in other cities. I cannot close this conversation thinking summer coming in less than 2 months in this beautiful city that I'm sure will be full of tourists enjoying the beach and the gastronomy and all this cultural center. What will be something new that you have planned in terms of environmental impact and sustainability in the next season? So there is anything new or that you wanted to share?
Well, there are many initiatives that will come together with the future policy makers, because we are going to find out in a couple of weeks which one results elected. But the current team is working on different initiatives that may come true in the near future, and they are related specifically with mobility, for example, because Santander is a very long city, and to go in and out, you have to enter through, I would say, just 2 specific points. And this, with the tourism flows during the summer, is sometimes a problem if you want to go in the city or out. So they're working on different ideas to dissuade people from using private cars, to promote and increase public transport, to build these different dissuasive parking lots strictly linked to the public transport or the bicycle ways, so that we can persuade people from going into the beaches area with their own cars, for example. That will be a good initiative.
Fantastic. Edurne, we could talk hours and hours because there is so much to say about Santander, and your experience, of course, help us to learn a lot. But unfortunately, as all the beautiful things, there is always an end. So thank you so much for being with us today and sharing with our audience your knowledge and your experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Analia. I am very, very pleased, as I said before, to be part of this initiative. I think it's really, really interesting. And I, of course, thank NCAT, and I hope we can follow up the synergies and these experiences we are sharing, maybe in the near future within the European network as well.
Thank you, Edurne. It was really a pleasure also for NCAT to be hosted in the city of Santander. I really felt in love with your mayor, her vision, and very, very easygoing approach. And of course, it was a pleasure to work with you and your team. It was a very, very good experience for us. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Jana. The pleasure was ours.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the podcast of INCACT, the European Network on Cultural Management and Policy. To learn more about us, our activities, and how to become a member, visit incact.org.